Hey everybody, it is I, Hannah Ruhama, the Kombucha Mama, mother to mazillions of bacteria around the world. And you know, one of the things that really intrigues people about kombucha are the beautiful colors in the brew. And that's because kombucha does such an amazing job of soaking up the antioxidants, the nutrients of whatever you're infusing into it. And those colors can be these beautiful jewel tones if you're using strawberries, raspberries, cherries, just anything that has a lovely color to it. And so the color and the vibrancy is one of the things that really attracts us to kombucha, in addition, of course, to its delicious flavor. And so today I'm really excited to be talking with a friend of mine, Joe, who is an amazingly talented artist. And so not only does he use beautiful colors in his work, he's also started doing something that we call color codes, or that he's calling color codes. And so let me just bring Joe on here, and then we'll find out what he's got going on, because these are really remarkable. You know, I really love colors, not only just in my kombucha, but also the colors of the chakra. If you're chakras, if you're familiar with that energy system, right? There's like a rainbow of colors that indicate different aspects of our energy system. Hi, Joe.
Hi, how are you? It's good to see you.
You too. Good to see you. How have you been?
I've been good. I've been really good. How about yourself?
Oh, great. Yes, of course. Fantastic. Evolving, ever evolving and changing, which is the way we like it.
That's so true, as we should be.
I agree. And I was just talking about color and how important it is, because I know we're going to talk about your color codes today, and talking about the chakra system. I've been doing a lot more work with my chakras and balancing. And in fact, I do chakra meditations for my husband, where I just sort of walk him through the different chakras and what they mean. And we cleanse them out with different energies. And so, yeah, I've just been really talking about color and those frequencies and those wavelengths and how they hit us, and the different symbols that they carry with them. So why don't we dive into your work? You're an amazing artist. Looks like you're in your studio. Can you give us a little quick tour at some point?
Well, behind me is a color code right there.
Ooh, is that this one right behind your head there? Oh, beautiful. Right there. Look at that. And then what's behind your head? Because I know you make lots of beautiful artwork. Oh,
that's another piece I did a little while ago.
Mm-hmm. And so how did you get into art? Is this a lifelong pursuit? Is this a hobby?
I got into art. Well, in 5th grade, I was on a swing set, swinging back and forth, trying to make the decision whether I wanted to be an artist or a musician. And I picked artist. And from there, it went on to, I thought I was going to be an architect and eventually an artist. But back then, even today, when you say artist, it's like, well, what type of artist? So eventually I went to art school and I got into video games. And I've been an artist in video games for over 20 years now.
Oh, wow.
But all the time I've been painting. All the time I've been painting on the side.
Painting, which aspect of painting is it? Oils or acrylics?
Oils and gouache. And I paint mostly, at least back then, I used to always paint from life, meaning a live model or outside or something. So it's really traditional, old school, paint what you observe right in front of you.
And then video game stuff.
Yeah, video game kind of the exact opposite in some regards. A lot of it comes from your head and references, looking at other things. It's fun, but I've been doing it for a long time. And if you keep doing something for a long time, either you become real good at it or you just want to move on to something else. Or a little bit of both.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like you're at a little bit of both, because you've always continued with the painting. And so would you describe like the computer generated art, the digital art for the games is kind of coming from your head, whereas maybe the painting is coming more from your heart? Is that a way?
That's probably a good way to. That's probably a good way to think about it.
And so, what as an artist is that you just have an amazing third eye? You're getting these images. You have visuals. How do you translate what's in your head onto the page?
Well, it's interesting. Since I'm a longtime meditator, uh, a while back, a few years ago, I really started to notice when I talk to people, like I'm talking to you, that I get colors and patterns that come to me. But I've never thought of painting it ever, because it was like, what, why? It's not that like, well, okay, you see some colors, well, who? But during the pandemic, I started to tune into it, since a lot of our meetings and stuff are on Zoom now. I would really tune into it. And if I do tune into it, it gets stronger. And if I have a long conversation with somebody, I could tune back into that person and conversation, and the visions will continue. The patterns and the colors. And one thing about them is they're always moving. It's not just some static image that is like blue, blue. It's like a pattern. It's like a really pattern that moves and undulates and moves around. And I noticed that when I talk to people and ask them a set of questions, to just kind of get the conversation going, it becomes stronger, and I could really tune into it. And then in one day in meditation, it came to me, hey, do these for people and call them color codes and see what happens. And so that's how I came about it. And so the first one I did was for somebody, and it turned out absolutely excellent. And it turned out better than I thought it was, because as I'm doing it, I get a lot out of it myself. It almost feels like I'm having like this color communication with the person, or whatever happened there. I'm hesitant to say what's going on there, but something's happening, and I paint it, and I call them color codes. And I think that people can really use them to remind themselves that deep within them is something that is just really untarnished, doesn't live in judgment, and is at complete peace. And it's always there, deep, deep inside you. And these paintings, it's my hope that it is a reminder constantly of you, to you, of that. Because each color code is completely different. What was that? I'm sorry?
So it's like a reflection, if you will, of sort of the essential energy that because some people might go, well, is this an aura that you're seeing? Right? Because we imagine auras, right, and they have colors to them. So is this some sort of like ball of energy or that you're seeing around people? But what I'm hearing is that it's more something that maybe is being expressed from the internal.
Yes, that's how I'm taking it. Because when I see people, I don't see auras, and, I wish I did, but I don't.
Like a halo or a cloud here.
Yeah. I used to try to when I was in school to see people's auras in high school, but I couldn't tell if what I was seeing was what I was seeing. So
maybe you were, maybe you weren't.
Maybe I was,
And so then when you're having this experience of talking to the person, are these colors, is there words that come with it? Are there images? Is it just the colors themselves? It canvas?
Well, some things have come to me while doing them. Like one person kept telling me that this person needs to have more fun in their life. And it kept telling me it over and over and over. And then when we went over the color code at the end, because I presented it to him on Zoom since he was in another part of the world, I just told him, it told me that you need to not lighten up, but kind of not take a lot of things in your life so seriously and really play. And it seemed to go over well. I mean, it was an experience for us both, and he loved the piece, and I look forward to hearing from him after he spends a lot more time with it, because I'm as excited as the person to see what happens, because I'm getting a lot of great feedback from them. And that's what's exciting to me, is I really don't know what's going on. And that's the whole unknownness. And that is attractive. And that's your comfort zone, right? When you're in the unknown, you're out of your comfort zone. When everything's known, you're really comfortable and everything.
Exactly. Well, what kind of feedback are you hearing from folks about the color codes? Is it something that they're meditating with? Like, how are people using it?
Some are using it for meditation, and they say it's very, because I tell them certain things about the piece. Each piece is different, like what I got from it and what these colors can represent and what it kind of is. But I will flat out say, don't etch that in stone. because it's what the person gets back from it. Because I really don't want people to think about it. Just feel the colors, because you can think your way all the way to Christmas and back, and not much is going to get done, you know? So just feel it.
And so
some people stare at it because some of them are a lot different, like more of a mandala, but not really, because a lot of mandalas are set on certain parameters, and I don't abide by any of that. Like, not that I don't agree with it, but I don't do sacred geometry. I don't do like this color means this in the chakra system, so it doesn't mean this here. Forget all that. Just feel it. Feel it. And usually just stare at it. Focus on a spot and stare at it. Soften your gaze, stare at it. Think of a question that you have in your day, throw it to it, and then just feel, see what comes back. Granted, you could probably do this to anything, but a color code's beautiful and it's cool. So why not use the color code, you know? That's how I'm looking at it.
Do you have a color code for yourself?
I do not. I've been hesitant to do it, but I think I'm going to do it soon.
How would you do it for yourself? Is that something where you gaze into a mirror, or because you are yourself?
I don't know. That's the whole thing. I don't know. I'll probably just put colors that I like, but I'm not sure. I think once I start doing it for myself, it'll all just unravel to what it is and what I'm doing.
Well, and so can you walk us through the piece that's behind you there just a little bit, in terms of sort of some of the feelings or emotions that came up as you were creating that piece? Oh,
sure. Well, granted, this one next to me here is the one I've done on my wife. So yeah. So up top there's a black dot in there, in that little violet flame. You can't really see the color differentiations here because it's so far away, but there's a little black dot there, and that black dot is the void that is always pulling you deeper inside yourself. And the reason it's black, to me, is your identity is no longer there. Everything that you think you are, you're not. It's stripped away. It's complete void. It's completely who I think you really are. It's just all this other coverings on top. So around hers is a lot of blues and greens up top. And to me, those colors are it's a lot of growth and it's a lot of wisdom. To me, blue is a lot of wisdom. It's seeking higher wisdom, and it depends on what type of blue. But it's radiating out of her core all this stuff. But in the corners down there, you have this yellow and orange and these deep magentas and these purples. Those are two aspects of her life. What they are, I could only guess, but I can guess, since I did it, is one of them is career and the other one is family. And those things are stirring up deep, deep things for her. Deep as in good. And all three of them are balancing, because you could look at that color code and look at each point, like here, here, and here, and you can see like how it makes kind of a triangle. You just kind of focus on that. And since this one is like the medium-sized color code, there's a lot there to look at. But I'm not completely finished with this piece. It's close, but yeah. But for the most part, that's what it is. I would go more detailed. I will go more in detail with it with my wife, because each person, it brings up certain things that I want to talk to them and get feedback, because it's a two-way street. And some ideas will come up as I'm talking to them as how they could use it.
So how are people using it? It's a way to meditate. It's a way to reflect on themselves. So let's say I'm someone who's just hearing about this. Why might I be inspired to grab my color code, other than, of course, it's a beautiful work of art that is reflective of me?
Well, I would first ask you straight off the bat, what do you want more in your life?
So I want more.
Interesting. Something most people don't think about, other than the whole standard, I just want more money.
Right. But what does that actually represent? It represents freedom. It represents, I love travel. I'm really a gourmand, I suppose. I love to enjoy all the things of life. I love going to the beach.
That's great. So what we would do in the conversation, a lot of this stuff would be brought up, right? And I'm a big believer that intention is very, very powerful, and people don't even realize it because we just usually don't have intentions very much. So all the things that you discussed would be pretty much encoded in the painting because of my intentions when I paint it. So every time you would look at the painting and you'd have it in your house, it would remind you of all the things that we talked about. And it would be radiating and pulsing that in your home every day. So whenever you might be blue or something, you can go look at the color code and be like, okay, I remember now. Something's going on here. So it could just be a magnifier of whatever you want in your life. And we would discuss that in our conversation and hone it down. And more would be revealed to it when I reveal the painting to you. And we would talk about it, and I'd give you suggestions and, whatnot. Each person would be completely different, which is the way it should be.
Yeah, sure. So it sounds like you've done a few of these, and I'm sure you're finding different things for different folks. And, the concept of having what you desire to manifest in a deep symbolic way. I think, humans, yes, language is one of the things we have really leveraged as a tool, literal spells that we use. However, symbols are so much more powerful because they communicate not just a word, but a feeling, an emotion, to your point, a manifestation goal, a desire, and symbols can really take us to a different place in our psyche than mere words. Not to undercut the power of words, but seeing that reflected in a beautiful work of art, I can imagine is something that's going to touch the heart, touch the soul in a way that's different than, and again, not to put down words or manifestation, but just a different way of being able to feel the energy of what it is you're trying to put out into the world.
Yeah. And also color can change your mood. I remember they did one study on finding a color for, this is kind of grim, but they were trying to find best color for people on death row, and what color to paint their cells. And they found out that a certain shade of pink was the most beneficial.
Interesting.
Yeah, less violence, less everything.
Pink,
yes. Pretty crazy.
Which was traditionally, it was actually a masculine color. Pink was a color that men wore with frequency. It wasn't until the 1950s when it got segregated out to solely be a female color. And of course, we've seen the reclaiming of pink, yes. Which I love because it's a great color. It's light red.
Right.
I don't know why that inherently makes it more feminine, but that's so fascinating to learn about. In fact, I wore this really brightly colored top today.
I love it. I love that turquoise.
Isn't that this pretty blue, and these aren't exactly colors I would normally put together, but the top thought it would be fun to wear today.
I love it.
So as an artist and in your journey, tell me more about, why is this becoming so important for you now?
It comes back to the whole unknown thing. I've been being an artist my whole life and working in video games for a very long time, and all that is known. But to do something that is new to me, because this is completely new to me, is really exciting. I didn't think I would I didn't think I'd like it that much. To the whole unknownness and meeting people and talking to people and having a really heartfelt discussion before I start the painting. I mean, that makes all the difference in the world. And how many people buy art, but they don't even know the artist, and the pace isn't personal.
Right. Well, your interpretation of it might be personal, but it's not personal to you. And so
Right.
and I think people love personalized things, right? I think I've seen people getting, like you send in a photograph and they make a, right? Like people like to see themselves expressed in art. And in fact, portraiture was something obviously before photography, which was one of the only ways we could really capture an image. And now we take so many photos that do we even go back and look at them? Sometimes I wonder if we're like, who are we taking the photo for?
Yeah.
Like it's almost a way of like, oh, I'm going to remember this because I took a photo. And yeah, sure, we put them on social media, but the reality, and it's, look, I'm still on Facebook and I like getting my memories and seeing, oh, wow, it's been a really long time since I did those things.
That was 10 years
beyond,
ago.
Exactly. Was that long ago? I can't believe it. But even today, in a way, we create all this sort of digital garbage in the sense that, we don't even necessarily then do anything with those photos. I'm sure there's plenty of people who do something, but I'm sure we can all relate to the fact of like, I'm just taking photos and where are they going and who are they for? So to have something that's reflective of you, and is artistic, I think is something that, people really do appreciate.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I would want one. I guess that means I got to do one for myself.
There you go. So if people want a color code, how would they get one of their own?
Go to my website, which you can go to through my Instagram account, Joe Kresoja. Mm-hmm. My website is kresoja.com, which is Kresoja. Even if you type in my last name, Kresoja, you will find me. I guarantee you will find me.
And in my head the whole time I've been saying Kresoja. I don't know.
It's quite all right.
Kresoja. And so do you think you could do like a color code for kombucha?
I could, but what kombucha are we talking? I'd probably have to do one for each mother.
Every mother is different.
I'm sure every mother has a different song she's singing, I would think.
Yeah. But have you done any quote unquote inanimate objects?
No, but I want to. I want to try.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I will, and we can have another discussion about it.
That would be fun. Well, because I think that there's a lot of things we take for granted as inanimate that actually have an energetic charge to them, whether that's a beloved object because you've imbued it with energy, or, we look at a tree or a rock and think of it as inert. Or,
right.
Of course, trees closer to plants we think of as alive, but even a rock, like we don't necessarily think of a rock as being alive. And yet, there's energy to everything. And so it would be fascinating to, what is the color code of Stonehenge? What's the color code of the pyramid?
I was actually thinking of doing it to words.
Ooh.
Like, prosperity, abundance, peace, love.
Yes. I like that a lot. And so do you think are you synesthetic? Synesthesia, is that something you feel you have?
I don't know. I've read some of the stuff about it, but I still don't know because it's so it's really hard to describe what's going on. So I haven't found another description that was like, oh, that's it. Because some of those descriptions seem like, oh, this person, sees sound. Well, I don't see sound, so I don't know. I wish there was some like
you see colors
test I could get hooked up to see what's going on, but
you see sound in the sense that when you hear what person is wanting, right?
I wasn't even thinking about that. You're right.
Right, so you are seeing sound in a way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I wasn't even looking at it like that. You may be right.
Yeah. They're really beautiful, and all of your artwork is really beautiful. Talk a little bit about prior to the color codes, because I looked on your website. You just have some really beautiful pieces.
Well, thank you. Over the last few years, like right before COVID and stuff, my style started to change to be a little bit more spiritual, as it were. And I just paint stuff that I would want hanging on my walls and that hasn't been created before. I mean, I do still paint from life, live models and outside plein air painting, but inside, for me personally, I know that, people have painted 1,000 trees of plein air, millions of portraits. If I don't paint one anymore, the world is not at loss. That those subject matters are covered fully by millions of people. So I try to paint things that if I didn't paint it, it would never get painted. And basically that just means stuff that I really want to paint and I would like to, and push the limits. I'm pushing the limits on going more towards abstract, more graphical, and kind of interweaving them together.
Well, and do you think that, the level of artwork we're seeing in video games, does that enhance the imagination of the viewer? Does it limit the imagination because they expect everything to be rendered for them? I'm sort of thinking about the sort of special effects we saw in older films before they were CGI and completely sophisticated, and you had to use your imagination to fill in some of the gaps, versus everything is perfectly detailed and it's as if it's actually happening in front of you. What are your thoughts on art and imagination versus having everything presented for you?
That's a big subject matter, but I will say a few things about it. Yes, video games have gotten a lot more complicated, and films and the graphics have just gotten better and better, more realistic, because a lot of them will just take pictures and textures and apply those to the 3D elements, and everything looks real. That's fine and great, though. But I notice some people in video games, they either like the realistic stuff or they want the more stylized stuff. And this harkens back to one of the things you talked about earlier, and is the color codes. And I can paint realistic stuff, but the color codes are purposely, I think, not realistic, because when I want people to look at them, I don't want them to think about all this stuff. Like if I put your face in there, you would keep going, that's my face. My nose isn't that big, and all that stuff, right? I would rather not have any of that stuff. Just look at the colors and have some like cool design that came through for me. That way you're not locked in your head, because we're locked in our heads way too much, and it causes so much suffering when we think too much. It really does. And people are like, oh, that's not right. It's like, yeah, it is. Sorry. When you think too much, you kind of you put yourself in a really weird mood, and you have all these beliefs and they just pile on. I'm not sure if that was even an answer to it, but
no, but I think I love what you're saying here, because it's true. I think we get bogged down in our thoughts, and it comes back to what you were talking about, painting from the heart instead of from the head. And, I think there's always going to be certain folks who want to fill in the gaps with their imagination. And I just wonder, as we get, the metaverse and different things. And right now the metaverse is like, I'm a cartoon. But when it starts to look like real life, what is that going to mean? What is that going to do? And that wasn't exactly the conversation we were signing up to have today.
No, that's all right.
But just thinking about those digital scapes and what is real and what creates emotion. And, our thoughts are not us, which is something that we all have to figure out over time as we live here on this planet as human beings. And because if our thoughts were us, our minds would be running everything. And the problem with that is simply that the mind can get through these loops. It can get stuck into, trauma. It can get stuck into living in the past and worrying about the future while missing out on the present. And when we get back into our hearts, when we get back into our bodies, and your heart is its own brain. It is its own energy system. And so when we return to, and that's where I think the symbols and the colors, they speak to us in a language that's different from words. And And those energies can really be felt in a subtle way. And what I love about living in the 21st century, as much as it's a crazy shit show out there, is that we're also experiencing this amazing awakening where people are really coming online with their hearts. They're really stepping into a world of being sensitive to these many different aspects of self beyond just I'm a body on a planet that needs to eat and sleep and do these things, right? We're really emerging into this other space of feeling what is it like to have different types of communication, psychic communication? What's it like to develop my third eye capabilities? What's it like when, I mean, I'm a plant medicine fan, you know, I love the way it helps me process and helps me open my heart in different ways, but also there's a visual aspect to that as well. That's beyond just, you know, realistic images, that goes into the kaleidoscope, goes into the fractals, goes into these other ways we can perceive the world that aren't just, you know, cut and dry.
Right. I completely agree. And what's also interesting is how much the world is a shit show right now. It makes it so much more obvious, at least to me, when if you really look in right now to yourself, really look underneath everything, there is peace, and it's always there. We just cover it up with stuff. We're always covering it up, and we overlook it. It's the first thing we overlook is that peace deep within. But right now in this world, it's very obvious to me. It's a stark contrast to the way things are in the world and the way things are in your heart.
But I think that this is our part. All of our parts is to make peace within, because we can't necessarily save everyone else, right? We can only really change who we are. And that means taking responsibility for ourselves, taking responsibility for our own traumas, our own triggers, the ways in which we into the world, right? You know, whatever that is. It's not to say we're not going to have emotions or we're not going to feel things, but we can also choose how and when we express those different things. And is it really important to get into a little fight on social media, choose your channel? What does that actually do for you other than take you on this emotional roller coaster? And so then why are you doing it? Are you actually communicating some new concept that's helping to transform hearts and minds, or are you just going on a roller coaster of emotions? And what is that roller coaster doing? How is that a good use of your energy? We have only, it's not that energy is not infinite. It certainly is when we tap into it, but we have to be recharging ourselves. We have to find ways to nourish that energy center and to really connect in deeper than just these sort of surface areas that, I don't know, at least for me, I get stressed out about the world. However, I just stay true to the thought that if I keep creating peace within my life, and, you know, my mission is really teaching other people how to create community, and to create community through kombucha. And so kombucha is this lovely fermented beverage that helps detoxify from all the poisons that are coming at us on a regular basis. And now if you can take that to your community, because right now it's the fabric of society that's being rent into shreds. But if we look historically, right, you know, fascism doesn't last. It doesn't persist unless you're in a tiny country with a military dictatorship. And I'm no, you know, wonderful scholar in history, but that's sort of my perception thus far. So even as we're coming up against it here in the United States, it's not permanent. It's not going to last. And I truly believe that there are more people who just want to live in peace than who want to try to force other people to adopt their values. You're always going to have noise on the edges from the people who are most vocal. I just truly believe and trust that there are so many more people who are working, who are doing the work, who are heads down. They're not talking about it. They're just doing it. And so I think the more that we can find things like a color code, beautiful artwork, being in nature, the more we can create balance and beauty in our own lives, the more we can show up with that for other people. And just showing up with balance and beauty in the world right now is such a gift, because people are in chaos. People are stressed out. They are poisoned, and that makes them act crazy, etc.
Right.
And poisoned by propaganda, poisoned by poisons in the food, whatever
Right.
it might be. But to then come back to art, to beauty, to love, to the heart, to nature, all of these things. This is why everyone needs to get their own color code, so that they can have this relationship with themselves vis-a-vis a beautiful piece of art.
Sounds absolutely awesome to me. Well said.
Yes. Well, I loved having you here today, Joe. Thanks again for joining us. And
Thanks for having
tell us
me.
one more time how people can connect with you, how they can learn more about color codes, and maybe even get their own.
On Instagram, Joe Kresoja, and my website is kresoja.com, Kresoja. Everything you need to know is there. Get a hold of me,
Great.
reach out, and we'll have a chat.
That sounds great. Well, thanks so much.
Thank
Really
you.
great to have you on today. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this preview here on YouTube. If you'd like to hear the rest of this interview, along with other useful resources such as show notes, links, and special offers, we'd love to extend an invitation for you to join our Kombucha Camp Plus Bubbles with Benefits member rewards program. By becoming a member, you'll earn bubbles with every Kombucha Camp purchase for free products, and that's not all. We also offer birthday Booch Day rewards, access to members-only sales, high-quality bonus content, including Kombucha Clutch Hangs with me, the Kombucha Mama, and my special guests, a free digital brew journal to track your master brews and experiments, and more. Now here's the best part. It is only $7.99 a month. For $79.99 for the year, you get 2 months free with the annual membership. You can learn more and join our Bubbles with Benefits program at kombuchacamp.com/kombuchacamp+.html. Don't forget, that's camp with a K, because we're cute and clever over here. And don't forget, trust your gut.